Of you who may not know the Columbus Urban League movement, we have an affinity group of young professionals across this country of our 93 affiliates who help support the mission, and they are hopefully to be the future leaders of the Urban League movement. And so our affiliate here in Columbus, Ohio, our Columbus Urban League YPs, wanted to take an economic stance on what has been going on as it relates to the unfortunate circumstances, not only around Mr. Floyd's death, but a lot of the injustices that we continue to see around how black and brown people are handled and treated by our law enforcement individuals in this country. And so we all know that economics is what really everybody's worried about in this country. And so they have put together a position, and I think a strong position, on an economic protest that we hope will go nationwide. And I appreciate their leadership and their continued thoughtfulness and due diligence about being able to show their solidarity against these injustices, but doing it in a peaceful and a constructive way. And with that, I will introduce our local president, Nick Bankston, who will talk about the details of our economic protest.
Thank you, President Hightower. Thank you for all those gathered here today. During this week, we have witnessed and tried to internalize the pain that we have seen. Many of us have wondered, what can I do? Many of us have silently or digitally participated in support of these demonstrations, while others have faced the brunt of the front line. Now is the time for us to make a stand with our brothers and sisters. We have heard time and time again that the only way America pays attention is if it is felt economically. I believe strongly that the road to progress is paved with both pavement and paper. There are many ways for us to fight for justice, whether on the streets in direct protests, in the break rooms in our places of work, in the boardrooms in corporate America, at the lobbying tables of politicians, in the voting booth, and yes, on social media. We all have a role to play in this moment, because this is not just a moment, but it's a movement towards true justice in all aspects of our society. The police brutality that we have seen that has sparked these protests around the country is just the tip of the iceberg of a systemic racist system. That is the root cause. And at the core of this broken system, it is perpetuated by economic injustice and economic inequality that we see every day in our communities. And we must strike at the core. I'm calling for all young professionals across the country, all professionals, black, white, Latino, whatever your race may be, all those that have seen these injustices and have thought that they are horrific, all those that have used the hashtag that we're in this together, to stand with us. Join us in making a stand and declaring a nationwide out of office. To make a stand and send a message that not only do our elected officials and police play responsibility, but corporate America has a role to play in this fight for equity and equality. The time for action is now. We don't need any more lip service or great emails, that correspondence that talk about race and equality. We don't need any more elected officials simply just making statements. But what we need and what we are demanding is action. We are asking folks to voluntarily call off from work tomorrow, Monday, June 1st. And I'm asking those that sit in a place of privilege as myself for that to be for a week or until our demands are met. We are not just here to have a protest in solidarity with our brothers and sisters on the front lines, but we have goals and action items that we are demanding. Number one, that the remaining officers are arrested and charged in the murder of George Floyd. Number two, we are calling on local, state, and federal elected officials to implement 2 recommendations from the 10-point plan for police reform and accountability put forth by the National Urban League Main Street Marshall Plan. Recommendation number 6, the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate police misconduct across this country. Number 7, mandatory uniform FBI reporting and audit of lethal force incidents involving all law enforcement. As I said on Friday at a press conference with other leaders, to my brothers and sisters out there on the front line, we see you. We hear you. We stand with you. We stand up against the police brutality that we saw, that we all witnessed last night. We saw the images flash across the screens. Innocent people on their porches being tear gassed. People who are out past a curfew being dragged out of their cars. It's not who we are. But we have to send a message. The time to do right is always now. And I want it to be clear that we are calling for everyone to participate, but we do not want to jeopardize anyone's livelihood. But if you are like me, and maybe your feet are on the pavement, that's okay. You have a role to play, and there's something that we can all do together. The hashtag, we're all in this together, can't just be a hashtag. We have to stand up, and the time is now. Let me be clear that this is in no way a call for things to go back to normal. This is a call for us to create a new normal. And I want to leave so that the spirit of this is felt, so that everyone understands. Dr. King said it. We all have a role to play. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. We're going to get through this, but it's going to take all of us. So join me in calling off tomorrow and sending a message that our production power will now be used for the people, not for the rich and powerful. Thank you all for being here today. And I call to my brothers and sisters and let you know, we hear you, we see you, and we stand with you. Thank you, and God bless this country. Sorry, I'm making myself available, I think President Hightower as well, for interviews and one-on-ones. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all for coming out today.
You did great, Nick.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Good job, Nick. So we can go ahead and take that in.
My ancestors moved through. That's right. Seriously. Sure. Yeah.
I like that. What's all that?
Put my name on it too.
Hey, Nick, is it cool?
Sure.
I'm Eric, by the way.
Eric, nice to meet you. Thank you guys for being here.
No, thank you for having us out. All right, Nick, you can just look over at me. First and last name.
Sure. Nick Bankston.
Spell for us, too.
Oh, sorry. Nickbanston.
And then president of the Columbus Urban League
Young professionals, correct.
So, you know, tell us where, you know, this idea came from and, you know, why this form of protest.
You know, this really came from a feeling that I just had inside. And I felt that there was a void out there for some folks. There are many out there that see peaceful protests and agree with that, and they're going to be out there on the front lines. But there are some folks who, for whatever reason, may be fearful of protesting, or maybe they don't want, that's not their avenue of protest. But there are many different forms and avenues of protest. So we just wanted to make a call, a national call to other folks that are feeling this pain and have been thinking and asking themselves, what can I do? And give them an opportunity.
And, you know, are you looking for just young professionals, young black professionals, all professionals? What are you looking for?
We're calling for all professionals. We want to send the message that young professionals are moving this forward and that we're on the forefront, because it's our generation of tomorrow that we're fighting for. It's the America that we want to see for our children that are here and both not here. And so we're calling on young professionals to take the lead, but we're calling on those professionals that are sitting in their corner offices or in their cubicles that have seen this all over the news and all over their social media for a week now. And to say, what can I do? You can do this. You can strike back. And if that is not necessarily calling off work, if that is you leaving work early, if that is you standing up in boardrooms or where you are to stand up, we're just asking you simply that we strike a nerve, and for folks to understand that all aspects, this problem of racial inequality, this problem of the systemic racism, it doesn't stop at City Hall, it doesn't stop at the White House, it is penetrated in our corporations, and it is penetrated in every single institution that this country is built on, because the first sin has not been yet corrected.
And what kind of effect, you know, this is, I haven't heard about, you know, protests like this before. I think this is sort of unique. You know, what kind of effect do you hope this has and think it can bring?
I think the effect that we want to have is to send an economic message and understand that the inequality that we see, where we see this huge disparity in wealth, that wealth that the 1% hold is because of the production of the people. The people have the power here. And so we want to make sure we send a message not only to our elected officials, but also to our corporate officials, that you have a corporate responsibility as well. The same way that corporations spend millions of dollars lobbying to ensure that they don't pay taxes, or lobbying to ensure that they can hide their wealth somewhere. We need them to take that same energy to pick up the phone and call their politician friends whose pockets they line and be on the people's side.
And you mentioned at the podium, you know, sort of the difference between systemic racism that you're fighting and
Absolutely.
economic racism.
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Sure, it is an interwoven system. It's an interwoven system. And at the root of that is the economic inequality that we see in our neighborhoods, in our job situations. Even for many of us that work in corporate America, we see the inequality there. For me, as a black man, I have to have 2 times as many degrees just to advance. Or there's not even opportunities for me to advance. So it is tied to what drives this country. It's money. It's the economics of it. That is the machine. The economic machine is what's fueling the systemic racism that the powers that be want to keep in place.
And, you know, what are you looking forward to about tomorrow, or however long this goes on for?
I'm looking forward to tomorrow, to having folks call off work, but not just sit at home. I'm going to give people 2 other action items. When you're off work, fill out the census so that they can hear you and we can get the resources that we need, and make sure your voter registration is up to date, so that if the politicians that did not hear this message, they are voted out. And they need to understand that they're going to be held accountable. The Urban League is holding them accountable. The people are holding them accountable.